I might have just ruined my firewall. So I've been working on this Camaro firewall, trying to get this oil can out of the firewall. I really don't like that oil can. I'm debating, I'm thinking I might just cut a panel to fill in this hole, this circle, because I don't know that I really need to mess with a whole lot of that. Most of that's not even going to be seen up underneath that fender, but I really don't want to get rid of all of these VIN stamps on the vehicle. So I'm really debating doing an entire panel, but at the same time I really don't like how all these you can't really see it in the camera. Maybe I can get a light. Alright, I got a light. So the way this whole ridge and everything is all stamped in on this firewall, it's really nasty looking. It's all folded up. It's all, you know, those things bulge out a lot, those two. So I'm just thinking, I don't really want to get rid of those VIN numbers in the firewall. You know, I've got this one here, and then I've got this one over here. I think I'm just going to put a panel in that hole, cut a piece of 20 gauge, and then just weld it in. So anyways, I've been working on the cowl panel, and I don't know that I want to slap something just over the top like I've seen a lot of guys do on YouTube. So if I do it, I saw a video of a 79 Trans Am where they basically had to do a big section of the top of the trans tunnel because they didn't get a complete firewall. They didn't want to buy a complete firewall. They just did the floor pan. But the floor pan, only comes to here. So you have to get the complete firewall with the floor kick pan, because it's all part of the firewall. You have to get that complete firewall in order to get to there from that. So they only came up to here, but they had rust up here on the firewall, and so they had to cut out a bunch and make a whole new piece. But that Firebird, it looked really good by the time he finished, and he bead rolled it and everything. It almost looked like a factory type piece. So I could do something like that where I just take this top part of the trans tunnel right at the firewall, because all mine's pretty solid. I don't need to go down like they did. So I could do that. I could do that all on a bead roller. I could roll an edge around so it's nice and has a nice radius on it and all that stuff. Clean it up nice. Suppose I could work it in. I could just come right inside of that VIN number, just right to that edge basically, and down this hole. Or I can come in at a kind of an angle, almost like follow this angle of this edge and just weld it right on that edge. So things to think about. I've got the bead roller. I've got an English wheel if I have to pre-stretch it to bead roll in the design. I've got sheets of 20 gauge. I've got sheets of 18 gauge. I got sheets of 22 gauge. I've even got sheets of aluminum. Of course, I could make an aluminum panel that was more of a dress-up panel that you could then just like bolt on, unbolt or whatever, just over the top of there. But I don't know. That to me would look like crap, I think. Alright, so I actually made a template. I cut it out. This is like all extra. This first line inside should be the size that I need in there, but I left myself extra room for stretch and whatever. I kind of made a design here, a pattern, and then I pre-stretched this. You can see that curve in it. I kind of pre-stretched it in the English wheel, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'll B-roll these triangles into it, and hopefully I haven't B-rolled it too much. English wheeled it too much, so it's too stretched out in the pre-stretch. But I'm kind of new at the fabricating part, so it's kind of a learning curve. So this is a 20 gauge sheet, and I made a note to myself to bead roll on the inside of the lines. That way I can, because this part over the tunnel, I'm going to have to stretch that to form the tunnel part. So, and plus I'm going to have to kind of round that edge, give it a radius with the radius dies. So I left myself extra for the shrink in the panel when I run it through the bead roller, and also for trimming purposes to trim it so it all fits nice and neat. So we'll see how it goes. I'm going to try and bead roll this. Alright, so I took the panel to the bead roller. I trimmed it down a little bit, kind of see how it's going to fit on this car here. Looks like I pre-stretched it a little too much, so it's kind of oil can. So I don't know, maybe I can get in there with my deep shrinker stretcher and kind of shrink some stuff back up to get it to act right. It was kind of a little too deep for my bead roller, so I had to think about it. I had to flip my dies on the bead roller so I could bead roll it hanging way the heck out here off instead of down in the throat of the bead roller. So I kind of messed up a little bit on one bead. So here it is. So I put a bead to sink inward just for decoration. I was trying to take out some of the stretch. This is where my bead, where I messed up over the top of it because this corner is too sharp. So in retrospect, I probably should have brought it around like out here. It would have been a tight bead like that, but it would have been way better than this little sharp thing and then overlapping my line. But it's not ultra horrible. That's going to be like way down behind the motor, so I don't know. And then like I still have, I don't know if you can see it, but probably not. Let's see if I can shine a light in there. So that's basically, I can kind of roll that over and trim it up to fit on the trans tunnel, I think. So I don't know that I need all of this out here, but it was, I figured I'd just leave it and then I can trim. And it's not perfect. I haven't trimmed up the whole thing yet, you know, but it's pretty close to being trimmed. But it's not like ultra horrible. I could shrink it down right here. I could shrink it down right here. You know, there's a few places where I could shrink it down some, get it to fit a little better. But that leaves me my VIN number here and VIN number here stamped in the original metal. So I kind of like having that original metal stamped there. I kind of gave it a little bit of shape over the trans tunnel with that bead. I like the way the triangles kind of stand out into the engine bay and the bead kind of separates that off. And that's it's actually a pretty solid panel. Besides the oil can and stuff, you know, once it's welded in there, especially, man, that's going to be a good solid piece. I kind of like the way that looks. Alright, so I kind of got that cut out and I got that shaped and all of that. I think I'm going to stick with it because I like it. I'm just going to, I think, fill in that one hole. Like I say, smooth a couple more things out with a hammer and dolly. And I think I'm going to call that good. And that's going to kind of clean up that firewall. Not go too far from a stock looking type of firewall, but it's a subtle enough change to clean it up and for people to kind of scratch their head a little bit like, hey, what did you do? Did you do that, or did it come with a factory like that? So I'm going to stick with that. I think I'm going to take some of these home so I can press them out on my press at home, my shop press, try and press out the bushings so I can get started on those tomorrow, or rather later today because it's really, I guess, not really late, but early. So, yep, I'm going to call it a night. Like, subscribe, share, comment. Really appreciate everything, you know, my 9 subscribers I've got so far. Thank you very much for subscribing. And it's going to be a long journey, but we'll get there.